Howdy bubs and welcome back. Today we're going to be jumping back into Game Maker to continue our work with the platformer and add in saving and loading into our game. So right now if I were to, for instance, in the start game, go into here, get defeated, or make it to the end, it doesn't actually save any of our state. If I somehow survived this, made it to the next level, all of that information is going to be lost. As soon as I close the game out, I'll have to start from scratch. Now maybe that's your intent with your game, but I would like to add in a saving feature so that way we'd be able to save our current progress if I were to exit out of the game and load back in. In our case, we're specifically only going to save the progress for the individual room. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump back in. Within our menu, let's scroll down, and we're going to add in another option here for the build menu array. Let's maximize this. Menu, add index 3. I'm going to add a new option. It's going to be equal to continue. Then we're going to create a macro. This essentially is just going to be a keyword that we can use, and it'll reference the correct file that we need. So anywhere that I say save file, our program knows we actually mean the string save.sav. It's just a convenient shortcut for us to have moving forward. Now if we go into our step event, we're going to modify our switch case structure and add in a third option. Case 3. I'm going to specify, and make sure you include the break at the end, if the file does not exist of our save file, again this is save.sav, if this does not exist, then I'm going to do a slide transition, and we're going to do transition mode dot go to, and it's just going to be our starting room level 1. But if the file does exist, then I want to load the file so that way we can bring in all of the information. So var file is going to be equal to file text open read, and we're going to read our save file. Var target room is going to be equal to file text read, and we're going to read it the next line as a real, and that'll be the file we just opened. And our global dot score is going to be equal to file text read real, our same file. Then I'll make sure to close my file with file text close, and then instruct us to do a slide transition for transition mode dot go to, and then that target room, the room that we just read from our file. So if the user selects option 3, continue, if we don't have a file, it's just going to start us in the first room. It's not going to impact anything. If, however, there does exist a save file, it'll open the save file. The first thing it'll read gets saved to our target room. Our second thing we read is going to be saved to our global score. We then close out the file and we tell it to transition to that room specifically rather than level 1. Let's go ahead and move over into our player. I'm going to add in a new event for room start. In here, this is going to address our autosave feature. So overwrite file if it exists. If file exists, save file. If we already have a save file, we're just going to delete it. We don't need it anymore because we're going to create a new save file. var file is going to be defined as equal to file text open right of save file, file text write real. We're going to write into the file our current room. We're also going to file text write real and specify into this file I'm going to do our global score. And finally, file text close the file that we've been opening, reading, and writing to. So anytime I enter a new room, the game will autosave and keep track of our current global score, whatever it might be. It might be 0, might actually be a value, depends on what we've done in the game thus far. But that's not going to be the only thing that we need to do. We actually have been keeping track of our score as we move throughout the game, but what happens if we die midway through a level? I don't want my game to keep track of that since I'm going to have to restart that level with how my system is set up. So we need to go into our OGame object and add in another global variable. This is going to be global.score room, and it's going to be initialized to 0. Then in an add event, in other at room start, I'm going to reset counter for our room. Global.score room gets reset back to 0. Why is this necessary to keep track of our score in the room separate from our normal score? Is because whenever we go down to our enemy and I get a kill, I'm going to increase my actual score and the score in this current room by their level. Then up above in our OPlayer dead, whenever we create a new dead player, I'm going to add in a global.score is going to be decremented or subtracted from our score for the room. So that way, if I manage to score 4 points in this room, I died, it'll subtract 4 points from my global score, so that way it won't accidentally keep track of that if I load back in the middle of it, and we're already received points for half of the room that we were restarting. This will make sure it stays fair and there's not an opportunity to perpetually die in a certain state to farm points. One other modification we need to do is over here in our case 2, in our default case, before we transition to the next room, I do want to make sure we specify that global.score is equal to 0 if we're starting over. Even if somehow we've loaded up the previous score, we're resetting it back to 0 because you're starting the game from the beginning. Now with all of these changes in, we should be able to run the game and get to demonstrating. This is the first time that we're in here, so our continue is just going to take us to the first room. I'm going to go ahead and start the game. I'm in here. I just need to survive and score a couple of points. I'm in my testing room. I've done some slight modifications. I go here. I'm back in the main menu. I'm going to quit the game. Now if I run it over again, it should reopen our game. There we are. I'm going to go to continue. In here, we see it's already loaded up our 3 points and it kept track of what room we were. We were in the target room before I quit. And this is all we need for a saving and loading operation. Our next video is going to add more details on how to properly build up multiple levels so that way they all slide into each other just nicely. Otherwise, that's all we need for now. If you have any questions or need any assistance in class, just let me know. Everyone, have a good one. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Shout out to my bad bubs, my top 5, my day ones. Y'all have always been there for me. Next up, my baby bubs, the next 5. I always love y'all's support. And finally, for everyone else, any little bit helps. Thank you to all my basic bubs for supporting me along my journey. If you want to continue receiving notifications, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell button.